As I said throughout this year's Halloween Horror Nights is, in my opinion, the best year of HHN since COVID. But that doesn't mean there wasn't some downsides to this year's event. So what were the ups and downs of Halloween Horror Nights 2025? Let's just start off with the biggest upside, and I think what made this year so good for HHN, and that is the houses in the scare zones. Let's start off with the houses. In my opinion, there were no duds with this year's event. I really think that the houses this year were all solid. Yes, there were some that I didn't like as much. I've made my opinion clear that I didn't love dolls. And I do think Grave of Flesh kind of moved down as the year went through for me. Not because the scares weren't good, but I just did think that the theming didn't feel on par with some of the other houses. But again, it still was great. I mean, compared to previous years, it's just the house selection this year was amazing. All the IPs were good. All the originals were good. And it felt like when I was getting in line for a house, no matter what house I was getting in line for, I was excited to get another run through for it. So that is, in my opinion, the best thing for HHN this year. The fact that I can get in line for any single house throughout the night and be excited to do it. And I kind of feel the same way with the scare zones too. There wasn't a scare zone this year that I was like, oh, when I walked through it, I was just like, yeah, this is fine. Or this is, just not anything really that I'm excited for. All the scare zones were pretty good. Do I think the scare zones were as good as previous years? Not really. I do think that is one thing this year. I think the scare zones were very solid, and I like that every single one were very good. But I don't think a lot of them were very memorable. Though I think a part of that is the stray from what we consider a scare zone in the last few years. Previously, there was a lot of times IP scare zones, and especially the New York one felt really large in scale, even though this year it did feel that. I didn't feel like it was as the same as like Vamp 69 or some of the previous years. But I would like to see either a return of some IP scare zones, maybe to just change up the vibe a little bit, or honestly, what I loved personally, and I know a lot of people did too, I loved when all the scare zones were connected. Dr. Oddfellow's group of scare zone with Vamp 69 and the forest one and the Zodiac, it was really fun to have all the scare zones that were relatively connected in some way, because you could see a story unfolding here. And I thought that was very interesting to have Oddfellow in so many different zones, and it really felt like there was such a solid cohesiveness with the scare zone. But again, I'm not the one making them, but I would like to see a return of either some maybe IP scare zones, or possibly even again some of those connected scare zones for next year's event. One thing I just wanted to quickly touch on for this year's event too was the kind of lack of a central character, or as the Horror Nights community calls them, icons. I really felt a little disappointed that we didn't have an icon this year. The icons have very much made a return past COVID, and they've been very popular. I mean, Oddfellow was so great, and I do understand that last year the two Nightmare, I don't even remember what they were. They were not good. They just weren't that interesting of characters. They didn't feel like they had that much presence, but Oddfellow was just such a really great year for an icon. I was really hoping we would have this similar situation with the artists this year, and it felt like they wanted him to be the icon, but then they didn't want to commit to him, because they didn't really make him the full icon, didn't have him at the front ceremonies other than in just voice. But then he talks throughout the park, and all the food booths are themed to him, and seemingly the house has very big implications on Horror Nights. I don't know. I thought that was very weird. I felt like they should have committed with him instead of just kind of being like, oh, maybe he's kind of the icon. But that's just a personal take. But with that being said, one of the downsides this year to do with houses were the lines. The lines this year were very busy. Even if we leave Express out of the equation, we're just talking about the busyness of this year's event and the lines and how they felt. It was a very busy year. I do understand that kind of boils down to a few different things. I definitely think Five Nights at Freddy's is a big big like cause of that. But I also think Terrifier was a big cause of that too. But I also just think the event's getting more popular. People are realizing they like it. I know a lot of people around me that used to not ever want to go to these events, all of a sudden did start going the last couple years. And I think that continues to kind of push more people into the event. Because when there's people that don't like it, but then they go and they're like, oh, I love this, then people around them that don't like it are like, well, if they liked it, I might like it. So there's, I think, a perpetual situation going on where more and more people are enjoying the event. That's not a downside for me. I really am glad that there's more people enjoying this event, because I think it's great, and I really think it is like a premier Halloween event. But there's a lot of people that just don't like this kind of thing that are learning they do kind of like this kind of thing. So I understand that there isn't much to be done about this year, because it obviously wasn't, we didn't know it was going to be this busy. I mean, it was crazy this year. But I would like to see Universal be a little bit more proactive next year. Again, I've talked about this before, but I know it's a dead horse at this point, but 11th house next year would be really great. Maybe an extra show, or just something to suck up more people somewhere in the park. They need just people eaters, and they need to figure out how to just eat more people. But again, I don't think busyness is a bad thing. I mean, obviously it's great for the event, and it's great for the budget of the event, because I think that will make it continue to go up, even though the budget for that event is already insane. It's going to continue to go up if it's continuing to make more and more money. So obviously, I'm not discouraging anyone from going. Obviously, some people are not as happy with the lines this year and how long they were. I definitely have felt it a little bit more, because I remember just even a couple years ago having nights where we could stay really late and it'd be really, really slow. Or, you know, you could go for Stay and Scream and really have like a good 4, even 5 house runs. This year, that was really hard to do, to be honest. Like, I went Stay and Scream a lot this year, and getting a good amount of houses before the event opened was very difficult, even with more of them being open earlier. It just seems like Stay and Scream has become very, very popular. And I will say the Stay and Scream changes this year were great. I loved having the wristbands. I loved being able to walk around the park. I love that they were opening up more of the houses. But again, it's just crazy that Stay and Scream's getting that busy too. And another thing that we at least noticed this year was people were staying very late. Usually at HHN, people are pretty much done by 12:31-ish. So usually that 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock range is insanely good house time. So previous years, even last year, we could get even 4, maybe even 5 houses if we were doing like just original houses at the end of the night. And that is great. Like, it was one of the biggest reasons I like staying late, is to make sure I can get in a bunch of fast run-throughs through houses. That was not happening this year. And I think this could be, again, another situation of it's so busy, people are staying later because they want to get more done. But most of the nights this year were insanely busy, even up until that 2 o'clock moment. Obviously, a lot of the footage I'm having up on screen is from the final night, so it's not going to be completely, the normal, but the final night was nuts. Like, I have never seen a final night of Halloween Horror Nights like this. The amount of people that stayed until 2:30 and were walking out of that place was, it's crazy. Like, it looked like a normal crowd was still in there. So obviously, again, not much to be done with this. Obviously, just more people are coming, causing people to stay later, and then it's just making the whole event feel busier. But again, would love to see some proactiveness with next year's event because of the insane amount of crowds. But even with the lines, a big upside for me, at least this year, was food. Food this year at this year's Halloween Horror Nights was just really, really good. And I gotta be honest, I'm not usually a big Universal food booth fan. They can do good stuff, but in my opinion, a lot of times it's kind of just fine. But there has been some changes in culinary at Universal with their events, and I do think that it's starting to shine through, because this year had by far my favorite food year of HHN. The Death by Cheese Stick was so good. I really like the Yum Yum Devil eggs. They look really weird. They're not actually eggs, I promise. They're just panna cotta with like a pineapple like whip in it. They're very good. The Radaway was very good. It was like a lemonade drink with like brown sugar in it, but it was in like a Radaway bag from Fallout. Obviously very fun theming, but it also tasted very good. And there's a bunch of food like that throughout the park. I mean, this year had some of my favorite desserts and just food items I've ever had at HHN. But obviously that comes with a caveat. I've always thought that one thing with the food at HHN, it's a little pricey. I definitely spent a lot of money on food this year. That's not really a downside as much as it is just the fact of the matter. But again, food this year, I would love to see this being progressed into the future. Food was just so good. One thing I didn't notice about this year, though, even though there was a couple of the food items that were like those like really gross, like diabolical food items, like that Sloppy Joe from the WWE booth with like a chocolate bun, like pickle juice. Oh, it was gnarly. You know I didn't eat that. But that's kind of, I do think those have a place at HHN, because every year usually there's like one thing that it's like eat it if you dare kind of thing. But I definitely think this year had a little bit more of normal food, and I definitely think that was a cause of the food this year being so good. And to be honest, on another downside, one of the biggest, if not the biggest disappointment for me this year with HHN was the Tribute Store. I remember them kind of teasing it at the beginning of the season before it opened, saying that it was going to be the biggest tribute store that they've ever done, and it was going to be huge and well themed, and I was very excited. Then they started construction on it, and the Mummy store closed, and I was like, interesting. Then the arcade closed, and I was like, interesting. So I already didn't love the idea of the tribute store moving there, but I was fully open to seeing what they did. So they came, it opened, and I was very disappointed, to be honest. It did not feel like a tribute store to me. It just kind of felt like another shop. Where normally throughout HHN, I actually go through the tribute store a ton, looking at merch, and especially when they start getting discounted, looking at things. And I, again, just like the vibe of the tribute store. I think they're usually really fun, and they do such a great job on them. And even though the vibe of this year's tribute store was really cool and it actually had a really cool theme, the actual inside did not feel good. Like, it just felt like a shop that didn't really, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a tribute store to me. And I know this is a personal take, but I know this is an overall like feeling of the tribute store this year. So I don't know. I just didn't like the openness of the tribute store. I didn't like how wide it felt. It made a lot of the theming feel stretched out and thin. Even if like the floor print is bigger than previous tribute stores, I don't know what metric they were like saying, oh, this is the biggest tribute store, because it might have been contributing to height too, because it's definitely a lot taller than other tribute stores. It did not feel big either. I felt like the merch was pretty slammed together. It was a very hard walkthrough experience, because you had people. I think this was the biggest problem, is since the tribute store wasn't really a one-way experience like previous years, there was people coming in from like the Mummy entrance and people coming in from the main entrance of the tribute store, and they were walking against each other in these really tight aisles, and it really made the tribute store feel really cramped all the time. And on top of that, all the merch was pretty cramped together, and it felt just very tight in not a good way. It just felt miserable to walk through. But again, theming overall was fine. There was some cool stuff in there, like the urn was super cool. They had like short films playing. Obviously, this tribute store had a lot of connections to Poseidon's Fury. That's also really cool. But I really hope they learn from this mistake and don't try to do this again, because I just don't think it was it. I think the normal tribute store experience is such a fun one. That straight walk through, you have all the merch as you're walking through. They're heavily themed rooms. and it gives a vibe off that is just unreal, in my opinion, compared to any other merchandise that any park has ever done. And that's what I've always thought is one of the biggest upsides of Halloween Horror Nights, was the tribute store experience. I mean, walking through and seeing the merch everywhere, the super heavily themed rooms. A lot of times they were doing storylines in them, like with last year's tribute store that I thought was really cool, with the big bat at the end, and through like the subways and the old convenience store. I mean, it was just so cool. Going from last year that didn't have the best reputation for HHN and seeing this year's tribute store, it's like night and day in my opinion. Again, I love to open up a discussion about it. How do you feel about it, the tribute store this year? Are you not feeling good about it? Do you hope they move back to normal? Because I sure do. Obviously, we'll see that pretty soon with the Christmas store. But I'm assuming that Christmas tribute store will be over in the Hollywood section of the park like previous years. But onto another major upside for this event, and one of the reasons I went a lot was Nightmare Fuel. Nightmare Fuel Circus of Decay was this year's Nightmare Fuel, and it was just really good. There was some parts I didn't love as much. I specifically didn't love the music this year as much as last year's event. But the stunts overall this year were really solid. The choreography was great. The storyline was super solid. I liked how it built off last year. I experienced this show probably at least like 15 to 20 times throughout the season. And even on that final night, we went to the very last showing. That was super fun to get to see the cast, you know, say their farewells, and they kind of stand out on stage for like 8 minutes and kind of just like hung out together, and it was really nice to see. Obviously, Nightmare Fuel's become so popular, so I don't think it's crazy to say that this is like one of the best theme park shows, but there are some worries that I think Nightmare Fuel might not come back next year, because I think I've heard rumblings that their contract was technically up with Universal this year. I could not see a world where Universal said, yeah, this show that's like constantly full every single night and never has an open seat, yeah, let's do something else, guys. Like, it is such a busy show. Like, you have to, even on a normal slow night, you got to show up to that show 30 minutes prior to have even an okay seat. If you show up anything other than 15 minutes prior, you're not getting a seat. So it's an insanely popular show. There's a reason it's so good, and there's a reason I think it will stay for next year. But overall, again, the cast did such an amazing job this year, and the overall like feel of the show and the storyline and all the characters doing such a good job, and the stunts, it was such a good year for Nightmare Fuel. And I'm very sorry if you didn't get to experience it, because it was just such a solid year for it. And I couldn't make a wrap-up HHN video about saying my piece with Express. I know I've talked about it plenty before, and I don't want to touch on it too much. I just wanted to quickly reiterate some opinions that I have about it. Express has obviously become a big part of HHN, but I also think it's become a big problem with HHN. It's become an issue of, in my opinion, I think there's two major problems with Express. First, it starts at the beginning of the season with selling Express with passes. I know there's a lot of people that love that Express with passes. They sell that almost immediately as soon as they come out, and I do understand why people love it so much. I mean, not waiting in lines throughout the year is fantastic. But I think the issue with Express starts there, because the people that are going to buy this pass are going to go a lot. Because if they're buying a pass with Express added on, they're planning to just get some crazy run-throughs of houses, go like almost every night. You know, when that happens and there's that many people with Express with their passes, I can guarantee you most of that line with Express every night, and you see it as long as it is, at least half of it's got to be pass holders, because it's just always so long. And I do think selling passes with Express might be a mistake in the future if we continue to up the amount, because again, those people, nothing against anybody that bought the Express with the pass. I think you're perfectly valid. It's your money. You can do what you want with it. But I just think that the people that buy it are going to go a lot, and that's just going to cause the Express lines to be bigger. But I think the biggest problem with Express this year, and why it felt like lines kept getting longer throughout the season, is as the season was going on, people were realizing how busy this year was. And yes, there was a portion that was expressed, but there's a portion of it that, again, it's just a busy year. So when people are seeing online before they vacation about how busy the lines are, FNAF is 3.5 hours, like how crazy it all is. If they only have one night, a lot of people are going to be like, hey, I want to do everything. So they're going to go in and buy Express. Therefore, when they go, they're adding to the Express line, therefore extending the normal wait time. When that happens, there's, again, a perpetual situation where that 3.5 hour line at FNAF is now a full line at FNAF, and they don't even let you in line. And there's going to be people that see that, and then they're like, well, I want Express. And I think that was a perpetual situation of this year, is there was so many people that were talking about how great Express was this year and how it helped them so much, and that the line, they couldn't have done everything without it. And I just think that caused more people to feel like they needed Express for this year, more people to buy it, therefore making the lines longer, and that making more people feeling like they have to buy it, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. Obviously, this is nothing technically Universal's fault. This is obviously just a fact of it getting busier. But I do think Universal capping sales at some point would be really beneficial to the event, really keeping that number of Express pretty low. Honestly, for me personally, I wouldn't even mind if our passes got even a little bit more expensive if they limited Express more and more. Obviously, passes getting more expensive is a whole other thing because it's been a very expensive year. But again, I think Express being limited a little bit more will help next year's event. And finally, we come to my overall thoughts on this year's event. So I'm going to talk about a few things here. First is the vibe over the year. I think the vibe around the park was very solid. Again, Scare Zone contributed a lot to that, but I think music overall throughout the areas were very good. They had a lot of fog machines, I feel like, this year. Like, they put a ton over in like the front of Potter. That place on Human Nights was like just a dense fog zone. That obviously there was no Scare Zone over there, but it made the skyline when you were looking out really cool looking. Music was good, lighting was really good throughout the entirety of the event, not even just in Scare Zones, but all over the place. Multiple different giant fire shots would shoot off. One was towards the front of the park on the front store, and then the other one was like back by Transformers. I think it was on like the Finnegan's building or something. I don't know. It was somewhere in that area. I never like fully looked where it was, but I saw it going off multiple times. And then the opening ceremonies were really solid this year. Nothing really to super write home about, but I did appreciate the extra theming on that front area, and then obviously having a front Scare Zone back would lead you straight into a Scare Zone after ceremonies, and I thought that was really great. Again, without an icon though, it felt a little different than other years, but I still thought it was very solid overall. But one of the things that actually kept me going back every single week of HHN, making sure I was there on a Wednesday every single week, was actually the trading cards they were giving out. So if you didn't know, Universal launched a new kind of like rewards program. It's free to sign up. You don't have to pay anything, but it's called Backlot Club. And it's on a website. You can go in, you can sign in with your Universal account to sign up, or you can sign up normally. And you can add a card to your Apple Wallet, or I think it's called Google Play on Android devices. This whole system was really cool. So you would go around the park. For the first few nights, it was only one pylon. Then it moved up to 2 towards the end, and then it was 3 the last 2 weeks. You would scan it with the card inside your phone, and you would then, after you scanned either the 1 location, 2 location, or 3 locations, whatever you needed that week, you'd head over to the 5 and Dime, and there was a special trading card that week that you could get. It was all themed to either a character from House, character in Scare Zone, nothing IP based, all original, but I think that's perfectly fine. Obviously, that would kind of be a whole legal matter if they were trying to put like Art the Clown on it, because then they would have to pay residuals and stuff for it. So the originals were all on it. And again, these are super cool, just free souvenirs, and I really, really want more people to do it, because I want them to keep this up, because I think it's such a cool thing to do. It's basically just free for everybody, and it really did keep me coming back, because I I collect trading cards already, so I thought these were already cool. And again, having Horror Nights trading cards was kind of something super unique, and I knew it was the first year that they were doing it. If they kept it up, I would love to have the all first year set. But if you haven't signed up, obviously go do it. They have expressed that they want to move this into other parks too. I've heard rumblings that they're already going to start something at Epic soon. I don't know if it's going to be trading cards based, or if maybe the reward is something else, maybe a little button, or like, yeah, I don't know what they have plans for this, but I wouldn't mind if they just trading card-ified everything. Like, I think that is a fun thing to give. I'm interested to see if they end up doing anything for Christmas with Backlot Club and at Universal Studios again, because again, the pylons are already set up there. They could easily continue to do that. But again, sign up for it if you live in the area. There's no reason not to do these. It's literally free. It takes like no time. But one thing I would like to see with it, a little bit of a tangent here, I would love to see them move these trading cards into some sort of like mobile game. I know this is a big undertaking for Universal, and maybe it's already like something that they've talked about, but like a mobile like card battling game that you can scan your physical cards, but also there would obviously have to be some in the game for people that couldn't get to Universal, but you could scan your physical cards and have those as like special versions in the game. I would 100% play that. I would probably play it a lot. I like trading card games, so I would probably play that a lot. Another thing that I really enjoyed this year that I didn't talk about in previous parts of this video was Hauntophonic, Ghoulish Journey. I loved Ghoulish when it first came around. About 3 years ago. Projection equipment obviously got donked by a hurricane that year, so we lost it halfway through the year. Then we didn't get it in 2023. Then 2024 last year, obviously besides the budget cuts, they had just fixed the projection equipment and just had the new nighttime show that summer. I didn't think we would get one, so I was very happy when I heard this year we were getting a nighttime show back. I do hope next year for the nighttime show they do change it up a little bit, but I loved seeing Ghoulish again with a couple new songs in it and just new graphics and stuff. But I would like a whole new show next year, more properly themed around the event. But I definitely would love to see this continue as a tradition for Horror Nights. I also would love to see it continue as kind of an original story. I know the first year they did it, it was more of a like... It was kind of like their normal nighttime show at the time, where it was just like different scenes from like the movies and the IPs and stuff were at that year. And it had like sections and stuff for them. But I would love to see original stories stay and good music stay, because another reason I love Hauntophonics is the music is just so solid. And the mixing and the stuff they do with it and how loud it is over there is really a big part of why I like it. So if you didn't see it, we have it up on our channel, but it is just a great nighttime show. And to just wrap up my thoughts, the few things that I do think they should continue to improve, I think we need to deal with crowds better. I do think I would have liked to see a Five Nights at Freddy's meet and greet. I would have not personally done it, but there was definitely some people that were very upset that they couldn't meet Freddy. And also I thought it was a little weird that we didn't get one and we just got that cardboard cutout inside Louis that obviously all got rethemed into Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And obviously with us not being able to take pictures or film inside the houses, that again, I think is understandable. People would stop all the time and try to take pictures with people and stuff. It just wouldn't work well. I think there was a little bit of sadness that you couldn't get pictures with Freddy. I think it would be interesting if they kept those animatronics and maybe just rethemed Louis every like HHN into it and put the animatronics in there. Don't know if they would do that. But I would be really surprised if they just kind of throw away those animatronics, because it would be weird too, considering they built them from the ground up for the event. But I would love to see more meet and greets, specifically with big IP characters. I think people would enjoy that a lot, and I do think the lines for them would get pretty long. Tribute store, obviously, I would like to see some changes with, and again, just trying to do something with the crowds. I think adding an extra show, opening up more rides, adding an 11th house, all that stuff would help the overall feel of the event. But as I left the last night of HHN, I really did feel like this was a solid year. I know it's a solid year when I'm upset that I'm leaving for the last time, and I know it's all over from here and I've got to wait 10 more months until I can be back. I know when that feeling hits me. I've had a good year at HHN. I know it was a good year, and I am very excited to see what the team cooks up next year with different houses. I've expressed things that I want. I would love to see. Obviously, I think the given next year is Stranger Things. There's no way that they will not do a Stranger Things house for the new season. Stranger Things is what I think brought the event into the stardom that it did the first year that was in at HHN, and with the hype of that show, I think brought huge crowds to the event, and every year that had Stranger Things was just so popular. So I definitely think that is going to be a big selling point next year, but I would love to see some other stuff. I've made myself clear that I would love an Alan Wake house. It's a video game series, if you don't know, horror, survival. It's amazing, on my opinion. If you don't know what it is, I would 100% go give it a try. I love the second game so much. I would love an Alan Wake house, but there's other movie-based houses I would love to see. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies, if not my favorite horror movie. We've never got a Thing house that I think is weird, but because I think Universal owns it, so I'm really surprised that we've never gotten it. I would love to get an Alien house, especially after the release of both Alien Earth and the new movie, and all doing very good. Obviously, unfortunately, that is all owned by Disney now, and I don't know if Disney would lease that to Universal for them to use. Obviously, they've been in pretty friendly relations lately, so I don't know what it would look like if they tried to do that, and what Disney would want back from them for doing that. Same with Predator. I mean, Predator's been very popular with both Prey and then the Killer of Killers animated series, and obviously Badlands is coming out very soon as they're recording this video. So that could be another really fun house, and could have some really fun scares and costume design. So I think there's some really cool houses that could be next year. Again, let me know what you think, like what houses you want to see. Those are just my personal ones. But again, this year's Horror Nights was really fantastic. If you didn't get to go, obviously we have plenty of videos up on the channel talking about my experience from first night to last night, and our overall feelings throughout the whole event. So thanks for watching. I hope this video brought a little more joy into your day, and I'm hoping for a good Horror Nights next year. And we hope to see you again soon.